The village of Irahoko thrived under the watchful gaze of the mountains. These peaks, capped with snow even in the harshest summers, held the spirits of their ancestors. It was from these spirits that the prophecy came, whispered on the wind. A child would be born, touched by the divine, destined to rule Irahoko. This child, the prophecy foretold, would carry the weight of their people's hopes and lead them to an age of prosperity. Excitement rippled through the village, anticipation crackling like a brush fire. They would finally have a king again. The elders, keepers of ancient wisdom, consulted their scrolls and studied the stars. They sought confirmation, a sign that the prophecy was true. The stars in their celestial dance affirmed the prophecy. A king would be born under the next full moon, a king marked by power unseen in generations. The villagers, their hearts brimming with hope and a touch of trepidation, prepared for the arrival of their destined leader. Little did they know, the path to greatness was often paved with fear and sacrifice. Iyeya's arrival was heralded by a storm. Thunder shook the very foundations of Irahoko. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the frightened faces of the villagers. Amidst this display of nature's raw power, a child was born. He arrived not with a cry, but with a silence that felt heavier than the storm raging outside. His eyes, when they opened, held a spark of something ancient, something that made the village midwife take a step back. Fear, primal and instinctive, gripped the villagers. This child, born under a tumultuous sky, was different. The power that emanated from him, the energy that crackled around him like the dying embers of the lightning storm, filled them with a dread they couldn't quite place. This was not the benevolent aura of a king. This was something wilder, something untamed. Whispers of abomination and curse replaced the joyous anticipation of the prophecy. The village elders, their faces etched with a deep, unsettling fear, made a decision. This child, this iyeya, was too dangerous. His power, raw and untamed, threatened the very fabric of their lives. They decided to abandon him in the forest, leaving him to the mercy of the elements and the creatures that dwelled within. It was a cruel decision, born out of fear and desperation, but one they felt was necessary for their survival. The forest, however, welcomed Iyeya. The trees, their branches swaying gently in the wind, seemed to cradle him. Animals, usually wary of humans, approached him without fear. A mother wolf, her own pups nestled in their den, brought him food. The forest, it seemed, recognized the power within him, not with fear, but with a sense of kinship. Iyeya, abandoned by his own kind, found solace and protection in the embrace of the wild. Iyeya grew, nurtured by the forest and its inhabitants. He learned the language of the birds, the secrets whispered by the wind through the leaves. The forest became his playground, his teacher, his protector. He was no ordinary child. The divine power that frightened the villagers of Irahoko manifested in him in extraordinary ways. He could summon animals with a whisper, command the elements with a thought, and heal with a touch. One day the wind carried a new scent to Iyeya, the scent of humans. They were hunters, their hearts filled with greed and their minds clouded by desperation. The forest had provided poorly for them, and they believed a sacrifice was needed to appease the spirits. Iyeya, with his connection to the forest, sensed their intentions. They were coming for him, believing him to be the cause of their misfortune. He knew he had to face them, not just for himself, but for the forest that had sheltered him and the creatures that had become his family. Section 5. The Guardian's Challenge. The hunters, their faces grimy and their eyes filled with a desperate hunger, emerged from the undergrowth. They had tracked Iyeya for days, their superstitions convincing them that he was a forest demon, a creature of ill omen. They saw him standing there, a boy on the verge of manhood, yet radiating an aura of power that made their blood run cold. Fear, sharp and cold, pierced through their resolve. "Boy," their leader rasped, his voice hoarse from days of shouting and fear. "You are the source of our misfortune. The forest no longer provides. You will be our sacrifice." Their words were meant to be threatening, but they came out as a plea, their fear palpable. Iyeya, his eyes filled with a wisdom beyond his years, looked at them. He saw not monsters, but men driven to the brink by desperation. He saw their fear, but he also saw a flicker of hope, a hope that their sacrifice would appease whatever force they believed was working against them. Section 6. A taste of power. Iyeya knew he could easily defeat the hunters. The forest, his protector, his ally, had already whispered to him of their plans. He could summon the very earth beneath their feet to swallow them whole. He could call upon the creatures of the forest to tear them limb from limb. But he also sensed a flicker of something else within them, something beyond fear and desperation, a yearning for redemption. Instead of unleashing his power upon them, Iyeya chose a different path. He spoke to them, his voice calm and steady, the voice of the wind and the leaves and the rushing river all at once. He spoke of the delicate balance of the forest, of the interconnectedness of all living things. He spoke of respect, of understanding, of the need for harmony between man and nature. His words, infused with the ancient wisdom of the forest, resonated deep within the hunters' souls.
You must understand, the forest is not your enemy. It is a part of you, as you are a part of it. We must live in harmony, not in conflict. Only then can we all thrive.
Deep in the heart of the forest, veiled by ancient trees and guarded by the whispers of the wind, lay a secret. It was a place of ethereal beauty and untold power, the grove of the sacred tree. This tree, its bark as white as bone and its leaves shimmering with an otherworldly light, was said to be the source of the forest's magic, its lifeblood flowing through its roots. And at the foot of this magnificent tree grew a single fruit, pulsating with a light that seemed to emanate from the very soul of the forest. This was the forbidden fruit, a concentration of pure magic, capable of granting unimaginable power. Legend had it that consuming the fruit would bestow upon the eater dominion over the forest and all its creatures. But it came with a price. To partake in its power was to risk being consumed by it, to become a prisoner of the forest's will. Iyeya, drawn by a force he could not comprehend, found himself standing before the sacred tree. The air crackled with energy, and the ground seemed to thrum with a life of its own. He reached for the fruit, his fingers brushing against its glowing skin. As Iyeya's fingers brushed against the fruit, the forest around him erupted in a cacophony of sound and light. The very air shimmered and twisted, and from the heart of the sacred tree emerged a figure of breathtaking beauty and terrifying power. She was tall and slender, her skin the color of moonlight and her eyes glowing with an inner fire. Her hair, a cascade of emerald green, flowed around her like living vines, adorned with flowers that bloomed and wilted with every breath she took. This was the Lady of the Forest, the guardian of the sacred tree and the protector of its magic. She had been slumbering for centuries, her power woven into the fabric of the forest, but Iyeya's touch, the touch of a being infused with the very essence of the divine, had awakened her.
You dare to touch what is forbidden. The fruit is mine, boy. The power it holds is not meant for mortal hands.
The forest, now calm and serene, seemed to sigh with relief as Iyeya made his way back towards Irahoko. The weight of the forbidden fruit, heavier than any earthly stone, rested in his pouch. He knew the villagers would be wary of him, their fear deeply ingrained. But he also knew they were his people, and he was bound to them by destiny. He would show them that his power, though immense, was not something to be feared, but embraced. As he approached the village, the first whispers of his arrival rippled through the huts like a gentle breeze. People peered out from behind closed doors, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. The elders, their faces etched with years of worry and regret, gathered at the village gate, their hands trembling as they grasped their staffs. Iyeya stopped before them, his silence speaking volumes. The villagers of Irahoko, their initial fear giving way to a hesitant curiosity, emerged from their homes. They had heard tales of Iyeya's powers, of his victory over the Lady of the Forest, of the divine aura that now surrounded him. As they looked at him now, standing tall and proud before them, they saw not the abandoned child they had cast away, but a leader, a protector, a king. The elders, their faces etched with a mixture of shame and relief, stepped forward. They offered iyeya their staffs, symbols of their authority, acknowledging him as the rightful ruler of Irahakor. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The boy they had abandoned had returned not as a vengeful spirit, but as a beacon of hope, a symbol of their redemption. And so, under the watchful gaze of the mountains and the blessing of the forest, Iyeya's reign began. The abandoned child, now a king, stood ready to lead his people to a new era of peace and prosperity.